Right, Travis Scott, Astroworld. Astroworld is the third studio album from Jacques Webster, aka La Flame, aka Cactus Jack, aka Travis Scott. Travis Scott's creative output has been quite spotty in recent years. In 2013, he came out with his debut mixtape, Owl Pharaoh. This was very heavily influenced by Kanye West and Kid Cudi. It had its moments like Shit on You, that was quite good. He followed this up with Days Before Rodeo, which was better. It went more in the trap sound and it really nicely introduced who Travis Scott was. You could hear his development more. He is from Houston, but at this point, I imagine he was spending a lot of time at Atlanta. There was a strong influence from people like Quavo and Young Thug. 2015, Travis released his debut studio album, Rodeo. This was a great album. On Rodeo, we could hear the direction Travis was taking his sound. Like subsequent albums, it was executive produced by Travis Scott himself and Mike Dean. Mike Dean, a Houston legend behind the scenes, works with people from Ghetto Boys. He's very heavily involved with Kanye West's latest projects. So this is a great person to have behind the scenes. T.I. as well was involved in Rodeo. He did some narration, similar to how Common appeared on Kid Cudi's Man on the Moon. T.I. sort of framed some of the songs, provided narration. Travis Scott is very heavily influenced by Kid Cudi. He even cried when he met Kid Cudi for the first time. So you can see the homage to Man on the Moon on Rodeo. Rodeo had some great singles such as Antidote, which still goes really nicely these days. Really good trap album Rodeo was. It was sort of like highbrow trap. It had really exquisite production, but had the trap values that we have come to see from Travis Scott. In 2016, Travis released his second album, Birds in the Trap, Sing Brian McKnight. The title came from something Quavo said on the lead single, Pick Up the Phone. Birds in the Trap was a quite forgettable album. Travis was sort of just, it just felt a bit rushed, it felt a bit pointless. Aside from a couple songs like Pick Up the Phone and Through the Late Night, which featured Kid Cudi, Travis got to work with his absolute bum chum Kid Cudi, and they released a sort of an updated version of Kid Cudi's Day and Night. This was a very good track, very enjoyable. They had great chemistry between them. On a personal level, Travis Scott pissed me off here because I was going to go see him in concert in London. Second time I was going to see him. I was quite excited. I hadn't seen him live since Days Before Rodeo era, so I was excited to hear him as an established artist playing live. And he cancelled the concert on the day of the show because he said he was mastering Birds in the Trap and the album was shit. He cancelled the show on the day of the show. I was all ready to go, just cancelled it. Absolutely fucked me off. And since then, I've never really liked Travis Scott the same way. Late last year, Travis Scott and Quavo released a joint project. I had high hopes for this, and it was poor. Honcho Jack was just forgettable trap. So now, we move on to Astroworld. The one thing I love about Astroworld is that it feels like a love letter to Travis Scott's home city of Houston, Texas. Houston has had one of the most vibrant, influential scenes in rap music history, with figures like DJ Screw and the Screwed Up Click, and these guys are especially referenced here. The opening track, Stargazing, contains a reference to Big Mo's Bar Baby. 5% Tint as well uses the beat from Goody Mob's Cell Therapy, which was also sampled by Little Kiki in Peeping Through My Window. And I feel like this is the track that Travis is really referencing here, rather than the original Cell Therapy, because the chorus just repeats like Peeping Through the Window, just like the way Little Kiki does on his take on that great beat. This is a great track on the album, 5% Tint. I love how rich the production is here. It takes the keyboard, the piano melody from Cell Therapy and really just slows it down here, puts on some big booming drums, and the whole vibe is slow and chilled and just a sort of song you hear from like that 90s Houston scene. And that's why I feel like it's more of a reference to Little Kiki's version than the Goody Mob version, which was more dark and was related to crime in the neighborhood, whereas Kiki's version was just more just like drugs, women, and that sort of thing. And that is what Travis Scott is channeling here on 5% Tint. Astroworld has got some great production. Thundercat and John Mayer produced the track Astro Thunder. And if you ever wondered what a trap rap song sounds like with Thundercat producing, just listen to that. The beat is so rich and the beat is just great. It's just got the classic trap hi-hats that you hear, but you've also got the great bass work from Thundercat going on, just thumping, just booming throughout it. And it's also got his classic little flourishes throughout the chorus that are just like, it's got these little alien whistles and that sort of thing going on. And it's great. It's really enjoyable to listen to. Travis's flow is great on here as well. I love the whole vibe of Astro Thunder. Another great track from Astroworld. My favourite song so far from Astroworld is Skeletons. Produced by Tame Impala. Bear in mind, Tame Impala is pretty much just Kevin Parker at this point. And it's just rich, great production here. Parker leaves a lot of space between each of the guitar chords, and they hit each time, and it really goes well with the drums. And then when Travis comes in, it feels a bit like a Kanye West homage, really. The way he sort of flows and pronounces certain words, and just the subject matter feels like Kanye, really. And then in the outro, we get some really nice vocals from Weeknd and from Pharrell Williams. I mean, to conclude, Skeletons has got Travis Scott, Pharrell, The Weeknd, and Tame Impala all coming together in a really nice 2.5 minute slice of just like really extravagant, decadent trap music with a really rich production. And it does leave you wanting more. There's only one verse from Travis, and the rest is sort of vocals and harmonies from Weeknd, Travis, and Pharrell. And it leaves you wanting more. It's a great song on the album. The next track, Wake Up, transitions really nicely from Skeletons. Feels like the second half of this track. It's mainly a Weeknd-led one here, where he just talks about how he never wants to wake up from this relationship he's in, how happy he is. Obviously, Weeknd puts it as like, pussy's so good, he doesn't want to wake up. Not really much Travis on this. Travis gets a verse, he sings a bit, but this is mainly a Weeknd song, and it's really good. This is one of the better Weeknd songs I've heard recently. There are other great songs on Astroworld. Again, these are some of the best beats we've heard Travis rap on in his career to date. Butterfly Effect was the single that preceded Astroworld. This is another sung rap track with a murder beat underneath it. Really good, quite spacey, quite vibey here. R.I.P. Screw is another good song here, in memory of the legendary DJ Screw, who birthed the whole Chopped and Screwed movement. This is Travis and Sway Lee going back and forth over a spacey trap production. It's got the tinny rolling hi-hats you'd expect. The subject matter doesn't really talk about DJ Screw much, apart from the chorus. This is what you get. This is what you'd expect if you put Travis Scott and Sway Lee in a recording booth together. There's a lot of hedonism here. There's a lot of talk about sex and women. And it's a bit like Tupac Back, which I like the song, but my complaint was that they don't talk about Tupac in it. They just talk about how he's back through Meek Mill and Rick Ross, but the lyrics don't really mention Tupac in the verses. And the same here. They don't really talk about DJ Screw apart from the chorus. Sicko Mode is another good song. It's got a nice Drake verse on it. It's split up into two. Drake starts his verse off over some dramatic, blaring keys. It's just boo, boo, boo. And then just as it sounds like Drake's about to get going, the beat just switches, and then Travis does his bit. And then towards the end, Drake comes back again with a longer verse here. And you can tell Drake is still influenced by the New Orleans bounce that has helped him with hits like In My Feelings and Nice for What. He keeps chanting about taking a Xanax and sleeping on the plane. And it's very good. It matches the vibe of this track. Travis Scott came to a lot of people's attention on Drake's 2015 mixtape. If you're reading this, it's too late. The mixtape where we heard Drake first go into the trap mode, and Travis Scott had a really standout feature on Company, and it's good to hear Travis and Drake collaborating again. Despite the good moments on Astroworld, there are several forgettable songs, mainly towards the end of the album. Who What, featuring the Migos, is quite poor, quite forgettable trap, which is a shame because Travis and the Migos have worked together quite frequently, and usually the results are better than this. This feels like quite a lazy track, perhaps as a leftover from the Honcho Jack project. Houston, Fornication and Coffee Bean, the last two tracks on the album, again, I feel like the project's run out of steam by this point. It's rescued by Butterfly Effect being the third to last song on the album, but the last 4 or 5 songs, barring Butterfly Effect, are very forgettable. Nothing really too exciting here. Overall, Astroworld features some of the best beats I've ever heard Travis Scott rap over. He's got a litany of top quality producers from a range of genres, from Thundercat to Tame Impala to Mike Dean to Murder Beats. They're all here and it all works really nicely together. A lot of these songs are really rich trap bangers that have got really interesting sonic moments and musically evolve. There's a lot of really interesting beat changes here. Travis Scott is a producer. He doesn't produce as much as he used to, but he understands how to put an album together here, and you can really understand Travis Scott's evolution as an artist. And this is arguably one of his best albums yet. I don't think it's as good as Rodeo, but it's definitely a strong entry into the Travis Scott discography, which had been sagging these last 2 or 3 years. For me, Travis Scott Astroworld is a 7.